Welcome to Theme Weavers, your weekly wisdom for weaving yoga themes into your classes to inspire your students. I'm your host, Heidi Kasner. Let's get started. Welcome to Theme Weavers. Today we're going to look at how to deliver a Dharma talk and weave the story of Krishna and Child's Pose, which teaches us the balance of humility and inner strength, reminding us to surrender and reconnect with the universe within each of us. If you choose to use today's teaching as your theme, please find a way to turn my voice into yours. You don't want to sound like Heidi. You want to sound like you. Find a way to make this theme authentic to you specifically. So thanks for tuning in. We'll dive right into today's episode and I'll share my announcements at the end. So be sure to listen all the way through, please. Okay, yoga story time. Today I want to share the myth behind balasana, or child's pose, and its connection to the childlike playfulness and wisdom of Krishna, Lord Krishna. So just a little background in case you haven't heard of Krishna before. Krishna is the 8th incarnation of Vishnu and a key Hindu deity. He's often depicted with dark blue skin, playing a flute, and is associated with love, compassion, and protection. Krishna is the central figure in the Bhagavad Gita, which is often a book that yoga teacher trainings have you read. If you've never read any other yoga text, you might have read the Bhagavad Gita, where he imparts wisdom to Arjuna during the Kurukshetra, I think that's how you say it, Kurukshetra War, maybe that's how you say it. But long before he became a teacher on the battlefield, he was a spirited child full of laughter, curiosity, and mischief. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So this contrast, though, between his divine purpose that we hear about in the Bhagavad Gita and his playful youth that I'm going to talk about today, reveals a truth we often overlook, that profound wisdom can live within the most innocent moments. Okay, so back to today's story specifically, which takes us back, way back to Krishna's early years. As a child, Krishna was known for his playful and mischievous nature, kind of like me. He grew up in Vrindavan, surrounded by lush forests and the love of his family and friends. But Krishna wasn't just any child. He was a divine incarnation, like I said before, sent to guide humanity. Even as a young boy, his actions carried profound wisdom. One day, as Krishna was playing with his friends in his yard, he picked up a handful of dirt and he put it in his mouth. I mean, what kid doesn't like to eat dirt? They say it helps your immunity, right? Well, Krishna's mother scolded him and demanded that he open his mouth to take the dirt out, spit it out, open up, let it out. When Krishna complied, she was completely shocked and saw the entire universe within his mouth. The planets, the stars, the oceans, and all of creation itself. In that moment, his mother realized her son was more than just her child. He embodied the infinite. It's one of those stories that takes your breath away. What she thought was a mess, the dirt in his mouth, became a miracle. Can you imagine that? Expecting to find a muddy mess and instead seeing all of existence? That moment held the sacred paradox of being both incredibly small and cosmically vast. It blows my mind, and I can't even imagine how I would feel as his mother in that moment if that happened with one of my kids, where I told them to open their mouths and I saw all of creation in there and not just like their dirty tongue from eating dirt. It's wild. This story is a beautiful metaphor for the duality of life, how we can simultaneously embody simplicity and the vastness of existence. Like Krishna as a child, we too hold the entire universe within us. It's hard to believe, but we do. Balasana, child's pose, reflects this beautifully. It's a posture of humility, of surrender, and grounding, yet it connects us to a profound sense of inner wisdom and expansiveness. It's one of my favorite postures to just be in. I absolutely melt when I'm in it. In this way, even our most humble shapes can become doorways into divine understanding. This sort of reminds me of how, as humans, we tend to feel we are lacking and we want to fill those voids with things we can think will make us feel better. We want more stuff to surround ourselves with in order to feel more complete. More clothes, more people, more healing modalities, just more. I want more. But when we pare down the stuff and the noise and find a simpler experience here on this plane of life, we're able to feel a connection to something deeper that is within all of us. Krishna's story invites us to explore the balance between playfulness and wisdom, surrender and strength. Child's Pose reminds us to return to our roots, to rest and surrender while trusting in the vastness of our inner potential. And sometimes, especially in yoga, it's the simplest shapes that hold the deepest teachings. When we approach even our rest with reverence, it becomes sacred. This story has stuck with me over the years because it shifted how I relate to rest. I used to think of stillness as a kind of giving up, or as a less than, or that I am weak or failing. But now I see it more like Krishna's moment, an invitation to pause and remember who we really are. Taking rest and finding simplicity is not giving up or lacking, but rather a return to home and the space to reflect and realize that what we are is enough and everything. In our lives, there are times when we feel small or overwhelmed, as though the challenges of the world are too great. Krishna's story reminds us that within the smallest acts, like resting or letting go, we can access something infinitely larger. We are reminded that humility and surrender are not weaknesses, but pathways to uncovering our inner strength and wisdom. It also reminds us that the smallest acts of kindness and connection can remind us of the good we can do for others. Your tiny act might change someone else's entire existence. No act is too small. Think about the last time you allowed yourself to rest fully, without guilt and without judgment. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to view rest as unproductive or indulgent. And just a really quick little side note here. It's so funny. I was talking to a friend yesterday. I'm having work done at my house, which you'll hear about in the coming weeks or month. And there's a lot of workers here. They're like putting on a new roof. They're doing stuff. Things are happening. And I was saying how I feel really guilty, just like, wait, let me pause. It's beautiful out. The weather's been beautiful. And I love to take my lunch out on my deck and eat my lunch without doing anything, just like sitting there and eat. And it's rare that I do that. Usually I try and multitask and work or listen to a podcast or like do other things while I'm eating. But I like to just sit outside and eat and just have the sun on my skin when it's a beautiful day. But the people that are working on my house are right there. And I was saying to him, I feel really guilty just eating my lunch and doing nothing while they're working really hard. And he laughed and he was like, you do the most out of anybody I've ever met. Like, you never stop. You work so hard at everything you do. Nobody's going to think that. Just get out of your own head and let yourself do the things that nourish you. Nobody's thinking that you're lazy while they work for you. But in my head, I have this idea that rest is small, rest is lazy, rest is not fair to the people around you who are still working, right? So like when I think about that, when I let myself rest fully without guilt or judgment, it's really, really difficult. And that's just sort of an example of how I've seen that in my life recently. But in our fast-paced world, it's really easy to view rest as unproductive or indulgent, like I just said. Like, how dare I just sit there and eat? It's not even resting, I'm eating, but like not multitasking and doing 8 things at once, right? Yet Krishna's story shows us and me the power of stillness and how taking a pause can connect us to something greater. I remember one season in my life when I was juggling too much, one season, like all the time, right? Teaching classes, parenting, trying to keep everything together while saying yes to every ask, afraid to say no to anything. And I kept skipping rest. It wasn't until I actually came into child's pose during my own practice and just stayed there, 4 heads of the mat, that I felt a real exhale, that I could finally let go and breathe. To quiet my mind and the stories it was telling me about rest until it just clicked. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone, not even myself. I just needed to return. That's the gift of Balasana, child's pose. It holds us in a way that lets us soften our grip on everything we think we need to carry. When life feels chaotic, Balasana invites us to return to the earth, to rest our bodies and minds, and to remember that we're always connected to something larger than ourselves. The challenge lies in allowing ourselves to surrender, especially when we feel the need to push forward or prove our worth. So today, let's give ourselves permission to rest, not as a way of checking out, but as a powerful act of tuning in. As we move through our practice today, let Balasana remind you of Krishna's playful wisdom and the universe within. Each time you come into child's pose, imagine surrendering your worries and reconnecting with your inner light. Let this pose be a reminder that humility and rest are essential parts of your journey. You don't have to do anything big or flashy to reconnect with your wholeness. Sometimes just kneeling down and breathing is enough. And it's so funny. Lately, that's the end of the Dharma talk, but I just wanted to offer this little thing. Lately, when I'm teaching, I offer people to take a moment and either stay in downward dog or child's pose or a different pose for the next 5 to 10 breaths to just allow yourself to be. And almost like everyone, if not everyone, depending on the class, chooses to take child's pose or like hero's pose where they just sit for a moment. And I've had this awakening in my mind where, I was first a teacher of Baptiste power yoga and these hot rooms where like the more you do, the more bang for your buck, essentially. The harder you push yourself, the more meaningful your practice will become. And I had that story stuck in my head as a teacher for so many years. And now I can really ask a lot of my students physically. And I can also ask a lot of my students in the opposite. Can you allow yourself to just be still and rest and have all the benefits of your practice land? And that doesn't mean that you're weak or not choosing to work hard, because you're still working hard. You're just choosing how to spend your time in a wiser, more balanced way. And I just had this awakening that not everybody wants to push all the time and work as hard as they can. And they want permission to be able to just be, because so much of their lives are just going, and they never get the space to just allow themselves to be. And that's not less than, and that's not lazy, and that's not that I'm like not a hard enough teacher, so they're not going to want to come back, right? For so many years, I thought unless I push them so hard, they're not going to come back. They'll find a different teacher. And it's just been a total reframe throughout that experience. So I just wanted to make sure I spoke to that, because that's been a very big awakening for me lately. Okay, so your Dharma talk and story time are finished. And now it's time to get into the part of class where we find a phrase to drop as breadcrumbs at different points throughout the whole class to help your students come back to the story of Krishna and child's pose. You follow the breadcrumbs, then you stay on course and weave your theme throughout class. Some options of phrases I like to use, and I would love to hear what you like in the comments in the podcast, wherever you listen. Some that I use are, even in stillness, you hold infinite potential, or surrender to the earth, or rest here, or child's pose is a reminder that strength comes from surrender, or even just strength comes from surrender. How about let go of the chaos and return to your center? Or rest is not retreat, it's reconnection. Or the question, can you find strength in surrender? You can also take this in a totally different direction, teachers, and focus on the element of play, helping you come back home to your center. Right? You say things like, where can you be more playful in this pose? Or can you embrace the fun? Right? So there's the route that you can go where it's all about rest and surrender and finding purpose and connection in that. Or there's the direction of playfulness, right? Let this practice be all about play, just like Krishna. And so you could take the same story and take it in either direction, or maybe a direction I'm not even thinking of that you can think of and share with me. So now that we have our thematic 3-line phrase, depending on the direction you want to go in, let's have a chat about how we bring all of this alive in class. What additional things do you think we should hit on? Things like peak poses or specific pranayamas, or really anything else related to the story of Krishna and child's pose. So obviously a peak pose of child's pose is nice, or any posture that allows you to reflect and go inward. For me, that's most forward folds usually. Or if you're focusing on the playful aspect, you can play that up in class. How can you make the experience fun and use some sort of a fun flow or a fun posture as your peak pose? Doesn't have to be child's pose. I like that one for this story because that's the direction I tend to take it in. But I've also taken it in the playful direction. Let this class be a celebration. It's fun, just like Krishna had, like, he's this holy being and yet was like playing in the yard, having fun and eating dirt, right? You can be holy and playful at the same time. That's a cool thing too. So there's a lot of different directions you could choose to take this in for your peak pose, or for the class in general. And just a quick note on child's pose, because my daughter actually helped me learn this. I've always considered child's pose very restful, no matter what. Like, it's just this place where you can rest. And I would say that to her in practice. And one day she was like, why are you saying that? Like, this is not restful. My hips hurt in this class. It hurts my ankles. It hurts my feet. The way that my body is built, this just really hurts. And it's not rest at all. And I was like, oh my God, what kind of a yoga teacher am I? Of course it's not. Just because I think it's restful, that's so just like discriminatory to people whose bodies aren't made that they can get into this posture in a restful way. So it's like, well, what if you take child's pose on your back? You lay on your back and hug your knees into your chest and then widen your knees towards your armpits, but let your toes touch. And you can stay still or just like roll around on your back like that. And it totally changed her experience with the posture, because that she could do comfortably without the weight of gravity pushing her down. And it changed my experience yet again as a teacher to like humbly look at the words that I'm choosing to use. I just wanted to have you think about that, because we sometimes just repeat the words we hear, like take rest in child's pose. For a lot of people, it's not restful at all. It's quite painful or restrictive. If you're a quote teacher, maybe some of these resonate with you. This one was from an unknown source. In every child, there is a world waiting to be discovered. It's a nice playful one, especially if you're doing like the inner child route. Or Rumi said, the universe is not outside of you. Look inside yourself. Everything you want, you already are. Or Eckhart Tolle, I think that's how you say his name. Sometimes surrender means giving up trying to understand and becoming comfortable with not knowing. Oh, I want to say that again, because that is like a big one for my brain. Sometimes surrender means giving up trying to understand and becoming comfortable with not knowing. That's so hard for me, but so important. Or this one is an unknown quote. Rest and self-care are so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve from the overflow, right? That's like put on your mask before the people around you that need help. You can't pour from an unfull cup, that idea. If you like mudras, Anjali Mudra, it's like a gesture of prayer and humility. It's the typical posture we see a lot with hands pressed together in prayer palms. Or Nadi Shodhana, maybe for pranayama, that alternate nostril breathing to help balance and calm the mind is nice. Or a guided meditation where you ask your students to visualize yourself as Krishna, holding the universe within you. As you breathe, imagine light expanding from your heart, connecting you to everything and everyone around you. It's just like a nice, quick guided imagery for them to sit with for a moment. Okay, so let's wrap up the class now that we talked about all of that. Here's what I would say as a reverse Dharma talk, how I like to think about it, the closing to class. So that way you can really bookend everything that you went through. As you prepare to step off your mat, carry the lesson of child's pose and Krishna with you. Life might pull you in many directions, but remember that within you lies infinite strength, wisdom, and connection. When challenges arise, take a moment to pause, to rest, and to remember the vastness of who you are. Ask yourself, how can I embrace both humility and strength? Where in my life can I surrender to find clarity? Like Krishna, you hold the universe within you, playful, wise, and infinitely powerful. Okay, if you like this yoga story time, find a way to bring the theme alive in your own voice, in your own practice and teaching. The story of Krishna and child's pose teaches us the balance of humility and inner strength, reminding us to surrender and reconnect with the universe within. May this myth inspire you to find peace and stillness and strength in your infinite potential. What if stillness is the most powerful thing you do today? Whoa. What if stillness is the most powerful thing you do today? Mind blown for me. All right, you can check out the links in the bottom of the show notes where they link you to other things, and also a link to this transcript of the Dharma talk that I shared for Yoga Storytime in case you want to print it out and use it as a reference. And before we go, if you like this episode and you're enjoying Theme Weavers, please leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. And also be sure to follow the show. It makes a difference for the algorithm, so that way Theme Weavers gets recommended to other people. We can't all be the funny thing about yoga. They're wonderful. Everybody loves them. So follow us like them. They're such a great yoga podcast if you don't listen. You can also find Theme Weavers on all the social channels to keep up to date with some fun reels and posts that I share. I'm so grateful to each of you who listen, and the more you share and interact, the more energy and excitement that it's sending my way. There's also an option to set up a subscription to Theme Weavers for a small monthly fee. Beyond showing me gratitude, which I'm so grateful to those of you that do this already, but if you're a chromatic yoga teacher and you're a paid subscriber, you're able to track your listening as additional continuing education hours. If you have any questions about that, just reach out at themeweaverspodcast@gmail.com. I guess if you don't want to be a paid subscriber through Spotify, you could always Venmo me. Just kidding, but kind of. That's still paying for listening hours, essentially, if that's of interest to you. And last thing that both of these have links in the show notes. Please check out Theme Weavers Academy. It's a quick practical course designed to help you craft impactful yoga classes, confidence and creativity. And also check out the book I wrote, Energize Your Life. It's a chakra workbook for personal transformation. I have been a part of yoga teacher training programs using this book where they supply the book to all their students or ask them to purchase it. And then I come and do a half-day workshop or a full-day workshop where I offer the chakra system and how you can integrate it into theming for your yoga classes, as well as how you can use it to help your own self-growth and swadhyaya, self-study. It's really fun getting to work with different YTT programs. So if you're interested, please reach out to me on that too. Okay, that's it that I have for today. Tune in next time for a new myth for inspiration for your classes. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next week with a new myth and modern inspiration to bring to your practice and your teaching. See you next time.